viewers. Our today's topic is paradox. Paradox, a literary term. So let's discuss this term. First, the definition. Paradox apparently is self-contradictory statement, the underlying meaning of which is revealed only by careful scrutiny. So, paradox is a statement. Self-contradictory statement, and whose meaning is only understood when we carefully scrutinize it. So, when we carefully dig the meaning in a statement that is self-contradictory, we find its meaning, its truth. That is called a paradox. So, the characteristic of paradox is that it's a statement that is self-contradictory and whose meaning on surface seems absurd, meaningless. But when we dig its meaning, we carefully think over it, we find there is truth in it. It has its origin from Greek, where its meaning is beside or beyond opinion. So, from its origin, that when a statement goes beyond the common opinion, from the common accepted views, it becomes paradox. But it must be true. It must contain some truth in it. A view which contradict accepted opinion, and on closer inspection we found certain truth. So from the definition we can say that a paradox is a statement, a self-contradictory statement that must contain a truth in it on its depth, but on surface it seems absurd or contradictory. Let's take an example. I close my eyes so I can see. I close my eyes so I can see. How a person can see by closing his eyes? Through introspection. A person can only see the world when he opens eyes, but when he introspect in himself, he finds some other vision, some other glimpses of his personality. So this is an example of paradox. The purpose of paradox. The purpose of paradox is to arrest attention. So, to arrest the attention of reader or the listener, the author use paradoxes and provoke fresh thought, a new insight in a situation or the accepted opinion. It provides a light. The statement less is more, an example of paradox, and Francis Bacon said that the most corrected copies are commonly the least corrected. The copies that are most corrected are least correct. This is another example. Now we proceed to, it's a very famous example from John Donne's sonnet, where he says, one short sleep, past we wake eternally, and death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die. Death will die, and we will wake eternally. How a person can wake eternally? By a short sleep. But this sentence is an example of paradox that contradict to the common opinion that after death there is no awakening. But the poet says that after short sleep, death is a short sleep, and we wake eternally when we go someone after death. And death shalt thou shalt die. Death will also die. How can death die? But the function of death will be ended and we wake eternally. So this is very common, a very famous example of paradox. The device paradox was very popular in the 17th century, especially in metaphysical poetry. Another example is from John Donne's poem Canonization, in which he compares lover to saints, that lovers are saint. It seems very contradictory to the common opinion, but when we dig in depth we find a truth in it. George Orwell's very famous fable Animal Farm, in which he says all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. That the apparent concept of equality, but there is some privileged right to elite group. So it wants our attention towards the inequality that is prevalent in society. Shakespeare's another example from Hamlet. I must be cruel to be kind. That Shakespeare says that I must be cruel to be kind. How a person can be kind? By doing cruel act. But in this play, Hamlet become cruel to kill his uncle so that he can avenge his father's death. So he want to cruel to his uncle, but he want to kind to his father's ghost. Another example is from George Bernard Shaw, when he says youth is wasted on young. That youth is wasted on young. That is self-contradictory, that young people waste their time because they are immature, they are unexperienced. But when they grow old, they become very experienced, but they can't waste their time because they have no energy for doing the things. Another example from William Shakespeare's crowded die many times before their death. How a person can die many times? But this is a contradictory statement, contains some truth, that a person who is crowd is considered as dead. The paradox is oxymoron. When a paradox is compressed into two words, as in loud silence or lonely crowd or living death, is called an oxymoron. Is that when a statement is compressed to two words, adjoining two words, it's called oxymoron. Some other examples. Oh, death in life, from Tennyson. Pleasing pains, loving hate, I burn